Welcome to episode 19 of the Shamrock Green Room, your favorite podcast highlighting everything about Scotus Central Catholic and Columbus Catholic schools. Each episode, we discuss what it's like to be a Shamrock. Whether that is a current student, a teacher, an alum, or supporter, we want to hear your stories on why this is such a special place in education. I'm your host, Jon Brezenski, 1998 graduate, former boys head soccer coach, assistant football coach, and current assistant coach for the girls soccer program. Today, I'm joined by Taylor Dahl. Taylor was the director of communications at Scotus for 5 years and helped modernize Scotus in many different ways, which we'll touch on today. His impact was tremendous. He left Scotus in 2024, but continues to keep an eye on Shamrock Nation. He's currently the marketing director for Fremont Family YMCA. He's a good friend, and I'm really excited to get him in here into the Shamrock Green Room today. Taylor, welcome to the Shamrock Green Room, the thing you created.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to be back here. I haven't been back in a while, and yeah, it's just awesome that you're continuing to keep this going. And it was around this time last summer where we really started cooking with this. With Jeff was the first episode, and recording with Gary and Vern and Coach Pete. Yeah, it was so much fun. I love doing it, and I'm glad that it's going to continue on with you.
Well, we'll kind of touch on the how that became about as we go into this. But I want definitely people to hear that story and kind of understand the impact you had on the time that you were here. Especially from an outsider's perspective. Yeah, I mean, this place will always be so special to me. Mm-hmm. It just means so much to me. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy to dive in with you today. Yeah. Well, let's just get right into it here. Tell me about your family. Tell me where you grew up, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. So I grew up in Scribner, Nebraska, just 20 miles north of Fremont. Grew up on our family farm. At the time, farming crisis happened in the 80s, and my grandparents sold farm all the cropland off, so we just had the acreage out there, and it was a great time growing up in Scribner, and have an older brother, Josh, and we spent a lot of time out on the farm. And then when I was about 5 years old, we moved into town. My grandparents moved back to the farm, so we kind of just did a swap. They were in town, and then we moved into town. They moved back out to the country. So yeah, it was a good experience growing up.
So you grew up there, went to school there. Kind of tell us about the school years in Scribner.
Yeah.
It was Scribner Snyder, right?
Correct. Yep. Yeah. They consolidated in fall of '87, and in Scribner we, it was just typical small town life. At the time when I was growing up, I would compare it a lot to like a Humphrey. Okay. During that time, it was about right around 1,000 people, and just very clean, very nice town to grow up in and have a good childhood. I grew up 2 blocks from the park, so do all the things, riding bikes and going to the park, shooting hoops, and doing all those things. And it was a good childhood for me to experience in Scribner, and I couldn't really imagine it any other way. Mm-hmm. Now that I've been away from the quote-unquote small-town life, it is a little bit distant to me now. Like, I don't know if I could do that again. Mm-hmm. But it was a good experience growing up. And so in Scribner, we went to kindergarten through 2nd grade in Scribner, and then in 3rd and 4th grade, we went to Snyder to school. So we all got to go on a bus. So it was kind of fun. Like, I don't know why 4th grade always sticks out to me, because we were the kings of the castle, so to speak, because it was just 3rd and 4th grade. So we ruled the school, so to speak, just with the 2 grades there. So they did that for a while because they just didn't have room in Scribner. So they bused kids to Snyder for school and whatnot. But yeah, it was a good experience growing up. I 5th generation graduate from Scribner. My great grandma graduated from there in 1924. Wow. It was pretty cool for me to walk through the same hallways that she did. The high school was built the year she graduated, and then probably about 4 years after I graduated, they closed the high school building and they moved over to pods. So, yeah, my great grandma, my grandma, my dad, and then I went through there, and obviously my brother, my cousins, all of us went through there. So there's a long line of us that kind of went through there, and I was the last one.
So you go there K through 2nd, and then 3rd and 4th through bus, and then what, 5 through 12, then you're all the way back?
Yep, then you come all the way back for 5 through 12. Yep.
That's kind of interesting split.
Yeah, it was. I think it's just kind of how it worked that way. I don't know why they decided to put 3rd and 4th over there, and not maybe 5th and 6th, but that's just kind of how they separated it. So, and then we had a class of 25, and we were always split up. I feel like sometimes talking to people who grew up in the same environment that I did, that was different. Like my wife, she graduated school out in the Sandhills, and she had about 25, same about in her grade, and they were always together. Mm-hmm. We were never together until 5th grade.
That's interesting.
So I don't know why
just because of the different cities, or just
no. I think it was just they just wanted to kind of be 2-track, but it was just a really small 2-track.
I see.
So yeah, I always had 24, 25 in my grade, but in my class there was 12 of us.
Gotcha.
So, and then in 5th grade we all kind of came together for the first time.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so we did that whole thing, and then 7th grade got to go to the big high school, and big old 3-story brick building still standing there.
Mm-hmm. And that's the one that they closed, though.
That's the one they closed. Yes, it's still standing there though.
So what do they use for school now?
So they have pods behind the school.
Oh, still using pods?
Yeah, yep.
Oh, okay.
Maybe pods isn't the correct. I call them pods. They're just kind of little buildings out back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good time to grow up in Scribner, and had a lot of memories with sports and friends, and met a lot of friends through neighboring towns, through Dodge and West Point, Oakland, fun stuff like that.
Is it still Scribner Snyder now then?
It is, yes. They're still Scribner Snyder. They co-op all their sports with Logan View, except for a few things.
That's right. So, Logan View, Scribner Snyder. That's what I was trying to think in my head.
Yeah. It's been a big rivalry for years.
But they just co-op sports, but not school.
Correct. For now, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a big. We talked about this many times about a lot of these small schools, and I know you're kind of active on social media in that regard too. So I definitely get that point, because you do see that a lot, because it's just. It's kind of where the world's taken everything.
It is, yeah. It's sad to say, but at the same time, it's like you got to have to adapt a little bit, adapt to your surroundings, adapt to the situation, and
especially with the teacher issues right now.
Yeah,
even Keapaa County or whatever.
Yeah. Sadly, they're going. It's July 3rd, and they don't have a football coach yet.
Or volleyball.
Yeah, it's not any fault to them. It's just the situation that some of them are in, and out in the Sandhills, it's even harder.
Sure.
So I feel like east of Grand Island, there's some ways you can help yourself a little bit. The districts just need to choose to do it.
Yeah. And so what did your parents do then?
So my dad, Scott, he had a variety of jobs when I was growing up. What I remember most was he was the maintenance director for the schools. So I would get to see him a lot in the hallways. That was always kind of fun as a kid. And then after that, he transitioned to the maintenance director for the Good Samaritan Center, the nursing home in Scribner. It was a pretty large facility at the time. Mm-hmm. And then my mom ran an in-home daycare, Susie, from when I was little on until I was 10 or 11. She ran an in-home daycare. So it was just my brother and I. And then actually a kid who came to daycare, he was my next-door neighbor named Tyler. I consider him my brother. He's my little brother. Still to this day, we're super close, and he started to come to daycare when we moved to town. And there was always about 9, 10 other quote unquote siblings that were with us Monday through Friday all the time, and
the daycare.
Yeah, and we'd walk to school together, because we lived 3 blocks from school, so the parents would drop them off, and the big kids would take us all to school. And then when you became the big kid, you were the one taking everybody to school. They kind of trusted us to do that, which is I don't know if you'd see that so much this day and age anymore. 10 kids just all walking together. Yeah. But it was a neat experience to grow up with that in-home daycare. I mean, it was just a really good experience.
So how long did she do that for?
I would say about 10 years. Yep. And then after that, she was a para in the schools. Yep.
So what are they up to now? What are your folks up to now?
So my parents have since divorced and remarried. My dad lives in Lincoln with his wife, Terry, and he is a project manager downtown. And then my mom, Susie, is remarried to Steve, and they live in Fremont, and she is the director of human resources for Elkridge Senior Living in Elkhorn. So so
she drives back and forth then?
Yeah. She's been doing it about 17 years, and
really?
She kind of likes it. I think it just gives her time to decompress, and she loves what she does too. So that's always been good. And Fremont's just being so close to Elkhorn, it's not that far. It's not that far. So jump, it's good.
You'd be driving that far and that long if you were living in town, like in Omaha.
Yeah. For sure. Well, yeah. I mean, I used to I lived on 50th and Vine in Lincoln, worked on 27th and Pine Lake. It took me 25 minutes to get home, and I'm driving 7 miles. So.
Yeah. And then your brother?
Yeah, my brother Josh, he works at 3M in Valley, and he's been there about 8 to 10 years. And in the warehouse division, just kind of moving his way up, and he likes that. We don't see him too often, just with his schedule. And then he's married with his wife Alana, and then my younger brother Tyler lives in Lincoln with his wife Michaela, and then their son James, and he's a service manager for Lift Solutions. It's a big forklift outfit in Omaha, and they have locations in Denver, Grand Island. So he kind of oversees the service area. So,
okay,
yeah.
Well, that's so you transitioned from Scribner. You graduated. What year did you graduate from Scribner?
2008. Yeah,
2008.
So graduated from high school in 2008. That time my parents were split up, and so a month after high school we moved to Fremont because my mom was working in Fremont, and it was just time for us to kind of make that change. You know, she stayed in Scribner for me to kind of finish high school. You know, there was talks about transferring and doing all that stuff when my parents split up, but it would have just been really hard.
Yeah, to make that change that
as
late.
A freshman or a sophomore in high school. It just, and not being Catholic at that point yet, like Bergen really wasn't an option.
Yeah.
So it was just like,
going from like Scribner Snyder to Fremont would
yeah,
have been a big jump.
Yeah, and it's no issue to them at all. It would have just been a massive change that if I didn't have to experience that, I didn't really want to. So I knew once we graduated high school, okay, we'll move to Fremont and kind of get used to living in the city, quote unquote. But it was a good change for us. And then went to Wayne State my freshman year and realized after about a month that was not it for me. But I knew, I was like, okay, I want to persevere through this and give it more of a fair shake, even though I knew I was probably going to leave. But met some lifelong friends there and did that for a year and then transferred down to UNL as a sophomore.
Okay. And so then you majored in
broadcasting and journalism.
That's what you're involved in, the communications.
Yeah, mass
there.
Communications and the journalism school there. Yep. So that was an amazing experience that I'll never forget. I always would talk to kids at Scotus, and sometimes they'd ask me about college and different things in UNL, and it's very hard for me to not be like, oh yeah, don't go to UNL, because I just had such an amazing experience. But I always felt like talking to kids here, they would always ask, well, it's just so big. And to me, coming from I graduated with 25 kids, grew up in a small town. I'm like, if you could just get through that first year, it's really not that big. Yeah. It gets pretty small pretty fast. Yeah. And it was a tremendous experience for me, for sure. And kind of being that first person in my family to really, between my parents and my brother to go through college, it was a big step for me to do that. So,
I think that's one of the things that kids around here like. And it goes in spurts. Like a lot of kids in my class, a lot of guys in my class went to UNL. And then there was a stretch where a lot of kids from graduating class went to UNO. Yeah. Now there's a bunch that go to Kearney. So it's like, it depends on which high school graduating class kind of goes where. But it just seems like that's kind of what they kind of populate themselves based accordingly.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, again, with graduating with that small of a class, I think, again, there was 21 or 22 of us when we graduated from Scribner. And I think 7 of us went to Wayne State.
Okay.
I mean, that's a lot for that many.
Yeah.
And only a few went to UNL, a few went to UNO, then you had the Dones in the Midlands and Northeast. But I
think some of that, too, is like, you and I were buddies in high school, and it's like, hey, where are you going?
Yes.
I think it's like familiarity and almost like, I don't want to say like fear of branching out, but it's just that comfort,
And I had that for sure. I had always envisioned myself going to UNL, and then when it kind of got to that time, it was almost like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Like, I just kind of scared myself. I'm like, I'll go to Wayne. I've got friends there. I played sports against guys who were going to Wayne from Wakefield, from Pender, from Oakland, to all these places. So it's like, that's going to be kind of fun to like see these guys in this different environment. But then it almost just became like just Northeast Nebraska 2.0.
Yeah.
It was just, I just needed to meet other people.
Yeah.
And just experience different experiences. It just kind of felt like the same thing. And I just knew for myself, like self-growth, I was like, I need to do something else.
That's kind of how I felt when I graduated here. Like, a lot of my close friends went to Lincoln. They were in the same frat, which was good. I mean, they're still lifelong friends and each other. But I was like, I didn't even apply to UNO. I was like, I'm not going there. And I still went to a small school, but played soccer and whatnot.
Yeah.
But
and you got away.
Yeah.
And I for me at that time, I was afraid to go away, and then I just kind of realized I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that bad, and it was the best decision I ever made.
Well, we'll kind of circle back here a little bit. So married with Kristen.
Yep.
Married to Kristen. Kind of tell us tell us that whole story. And I mean, because obviously, I think some people probably may remember her from 10-11 days.
Yep.
But just, kind of tell us a story about Kristen, how you guys met.
So we met for the first time in our senior broadcast writing class. The J School, it's very odd to meet someone kind of new that late, because you take all these classes together and they're all pretty small. They're all about 12 or 16 kids, and there's not very many classes, so it's like it was odd that we didn't overlap at all. We eventually figured out, like, after we were dating, that we took a history gen ed together, but again, class of 300 people, we wouldn't have saw each other. But I just remember seeing her, and I just thought, I'm like, all right, she's gorgeous, and she's really talented, and she's really smart. So we just kind of got to talking, and then time kind of passes through, and then we get to the next semester, and we kind of reconnect again a little bit. And
of your senior year.
Yes, of our senior year. So I had the courage middle of April to be like, let's go on a date. I know you're going to graduate in a month, and I wasn't going to graduate until August. But let's go on a date and let's try this out. And it just kind of went from there, and I was just very lucky to find her, and we really hit it off. We have so much in common, but we're also kind of different in a way. She's a lot more introverted than I am, so we kind of balance that off each other. But like, we have, eerily same taste in music, stuff like that. Like,
you guys are a little bit out there, not out there. Yeah. I listen to that music too. But I always see you guys popping up on social media at different concerts.
We're going to concerts and stuff, and we're listening to music from 20 years ago, from when we were in high school, Fall Out Boy, bands like that. But or like a country music song we'll turn on in the car on accident, and we'll both go ick, and turn it off. Like, so we have that commonality, and we just I just knew right away that she's the one who I wanted to be with for the rest of my life, and we just really hit it off. And she got her actual first job graduating college was at the Fremont Tribune. So I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of in Lincoln still finishing up, but I go back to Fremont. My parents are there, whatever. And then my first job right out of college was at Sid Dillon. So I was like, okay, we'll come back to Fremont. And then I graduate in August. September, she gets a call from 10-11 to come to Lincoln. It's like, well, you can't turn that down. Yeah. So I leave Lincoln. She goes back to Lincoln. So we kind of do the distance thing. It's only 45 minutes. It's not a huge deal, for a few months. And then I just knew, like, okay, we're going to, we need to live together and take this next step. And then she got the call. She started at Lincoln in September, and then in April or May, her news director pulled her in and said, hey, we're going to start this new CBS affiliate out in North Platte, and we want you to lead it. She grew up in Myrna, Nebraska, 45 minutes north of North Platte, close to Broken Bow. So she had the connections out there. She knew the area. She had it, and she was really good. And they trusted her at that time to be 23 years old to be, hey, you're essentially going to be the news director, the lead anchor, the lead producer. You're going to manage it. Granted, we had bosses in Lincoln, but day to day, it was her running the newsroom, and then I ran the creative side. So then
in the same space?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yep. Yeah, we were in the same building. Yep.
So you guys worked together then?
Uh-huh. Which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people were like, gosh, man, I can't believe you guys can do that. But it was a little different, too, because we worked different shifts. Well, I'll back up really quick. So she gets called North Platte, and she's like, hey, they want me to go to North Platte. And at first I was like, okay, I guess this is what we're going to do. Like, there was I didn't have the space, to be like, I don't think you should do that. Because it was an obvious career jump, and that's what it is in TV. That's just what you do, the next step.
Yep.
And so I said, okay, I guess we're going to move to North Platte, and told my parents, and they're kind of freaking out because they're just like, oh my gosh, it's 4 hours away and all this stuff. And, but yeah, so then I got offered the creative services job. So I wrote, produced, shot local commercials all throughout
North Platte.
Yep.
Or that region.
North Platte, that whole region. Yep. Pretty much anything from Kearney west to Ogallala was anything that aired on CBS for a commercial standpoint was through me, unless it was produced nationally. So we moved out there August 2013, and I can say it was the best experience of our lives in our young 20s. And I would never have thought that, like, moving out there. Like, we kind of went out there, just, this is a job, we're going to do this for a year or two, and we're going to come back. and it was the best experience that we both have really had.
And you guys were there for how long then?
So we were there for 2.5 years. So it wasn't that long.
But impactful.
Oh yeah, super impactful. Yeah, I mean, I met my best friend, who we're going to go with, him and his wife. And his wife and Kristen are really good friends, and we're going to go to a concert in 2 weeks. Like, we see them all the time. Our kids hang out when we can see each other. We see each other at least two, 3 times a year. And yeah, it was just a really good experience, and having a SCOTUS tie to it, getting to meet Kevin Dotson out there.
I want to touch on that.
Yeah. So that was another added bonus for sure.
Yeah, Kevin Dotson is probably one of my favorite teachers, and he's also kind of a coach mentor to me too. So he was here my junior and senior year, and I got pretty close to him. Then when I was coaching football, I used to talk with him quite a bit. So talk about Coach Dotson and your interaction with him at North Platte St. Pat's.
Yeah. So we moved to North Platte, and being the outgoing person that I am, and with Kristen working night side, she worked 2 to 11. I worked the regular 9 to 5, 8 to 4. I had felt like I needed something else to do to make an impact, not to just be this guy who just shoots commercials. I was like, I know what it's like to be in a new place. I want to get out there and meet new people, because if you don't do that in a smaller town, it's really hard to meet people. So we started going to Mass at St. Pat's, and just got used to going to Mass and kind of getting a feel for everything. And then I can remember sitting in Mass and just kind of thinking, like, after, like, there's more in me to do. And I got my coaching certificate through the NSAA. And then I emailed Kevin and I said, hey, I've never coached before, but I have my coaching certificate. I would love to just be involved in any way, paid, unpaid, whatever it is. I just want to be involved and meet people, and just, I want to do this.
And you hadn't met him before?
Nope. I just sent him an email in the dark. Yeah. I had no idea who he was. I didn't know anybody who knew him. I just knew North Platte St. Pat's, being the Nebraska high school historian person I am, that they were really good at stuff, and Catholic education is really important to me. So it just felt like, I'm just going to shoot my shot here. And he's like, yeah, come in for an interview. And we talked, and he's like, I don't have anything on the football staff, but we're going to need a boys assistant basketball coach. Let me set you up with Coach Bill O'Malley, and you guys can talk. So luckily enough, he did that and hired me to come on, and Bill accepted me to be an assistant basketball coach. And so I got to do that a lot, and it was a good experience for me to be able to coach kids. And I learned a lot, and I grew up a lot in that aspect of, like, I just had never really experienced that. And you know how it is sometimes in high school with coaches, you kind of, as an athlete, you can get kind of crabby and be like, oh, the coach doesn't like me and all this stuff. And it was interesting to be able to turn that a little bit on the other side of being like, okay, I see it from this side now, being a coach. And we were really lucky to have really good families and really good support. And first year we went 24-2. Second year we went 22-3.
I knew you guys were good back in that.
Yeah,
I mean, they're still consistently.
Yeah,
good.
They're still consistently good, and we had a really good group there for a while, and it was super fun. And I got to travel to all these different places. Got to go to Mullen. Got to go to, we played at that time they didn't have a new gym, so they actually played, and their varsity gym was in the bowling alley.
No kidding.
Yes, so it was called the Lariat, and it was in the bowling alley, downstairs, I think. I think the bowling alley was upstairs and the gym was downstairs. For
your basketball game?
Yes. Yeah, it was really small court, and it was so cool.
Was it a low ceiling then too for basketball?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's like one of those old buildings.
Yes.
Then.
Yeah. It was awesome. I'll never forget it. It was so cool.
My parents went to Belgrade, and they were the last graduating class of Belgrade in like '67. So then my grandma still lived in Belgrade at the time, so we always used to go up there. But then we'd go into the school, and it was like that too, like, the gym, but then the roof is like that's interesting. That's in Mullen still.
Yeah. They don't really play there anymore. Like, I think maybe junior high and stuff, but now they have their own little gym space and whatnot. But at that time, it was like one of the last years they had played there. I have film of it on my YouTube channel, but it was a cool experience, and going on the bus rides and seeing all these different places, but just getting involved with the St. Pat's community was such an impactful thing for me and for Kristen, for us to get to know more people. I feel like when you move to a town similar to Fremont, Columbus, North Platte, it's so crucial to do that.
Yeah, and they are very similar size.
Yeah.
Similar makeups, really.
Yeah.
Well, kind of touch on you, because you mentioned the Catholic education piece, but you didn't grow up Catholic.
No,
right?
I did not.
Touch on your path to, I guess, because you discovered your I guess, path into Catholicism, maybe a little bit younger than some other people do.
For sure. So I grew up going to Lutheran church every week on Sundays, and with my grandparents in Hooper. And
it's Hooper. It's not Hooper.
Yes,
people.
it's Hooper, not Hooper. Yep. So don't go to Hooper and say Hooper.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went to Redeemer Lutheran Church, and it was an awesome experience growing up. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to go to church with my grandparents every week was awesome. And then I would say probably, around 13, 14 years old, didn't go as much. At that time, my parents had split up, and just other priorities, as bad as it is to say, but that's just kind of how it was. And I had some friends in Scribner who were Catholic, and two of my best friends, and they just invited me to come to Mass. It was probably just like, hey, we're going to go to, go bowling and Dodge, but we have to go to Mass first kind of thing. So it's like, okay, I'll go with you, whatever. And I can still remember just going to some of those first Masses, and it just felt different. And I was 15, 16 years old. It was just really impactful for me. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of thought about it for about a year or two, and I just knew that I wanted to become Catholic. And I just felt like, why would I just wait? Why don't I just do it now when I have the support system? We had the CCD, and there was a really good father there, and he was like, I'll definitely walk you through the steps of how to do it. And I kind of felt like if I'm going to do it, I should just do it now. It's going to be easier to do it now than I get to college and you have all these different things going on. Like, granted, you're busy as a senior in high school, but like, I felt like I could take this on, and I wanted to take it on.
That's pretty unique, really. I mean, to have that mindset at that age, because, I mean, it was a pretty mature step.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was different, when people were like, I think even adults were just like, he's really going to do that,
Yeah.
But my family was super supportive of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, as long as you believe and you're involved, then that's what matters. And if that's how you feel, then that's what you should do. There was no like, I can't believe you're going to do this, and all this stuff. And but it was just the right step for me that I just knew that I needed to take, because it's just where I felt more at home.
I think that's just really interesting, because I've gone to a couple of the Masses where you get initiated into the church. And Christy, being a teacher, she's had, in the last couple of years, she's had a couple of younger students even that have made that decision. I think that's just pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, like, because I grew up in the Catholic Church, and my kids have grown up, and I think some of us that grow up in the Catholic Church maybe don't grasp everything maybe as good as sometimes as maybe somebody that's coming in and joining the church at a later time. It probably appreciates it more. I don't want to say it that way, but you know what I mean.
I do, for sure. And it was an adjustment for me. And now I've been Catholic as long as I was Lutheran, but there's still some things that, like, I'll catch myself being like, oh yeah, we don't do that. We don't say it that way, or whatever it is. Or I'll kind of just, like right away, it was always like, okay, everyone's kneeling, this is when I kneel. Like, that stuff was just so different. And, just some of the prayers were just longer extensions and things like that. But a lot of it was just really the same to me. It was just that feeling that I had. It was just that personal touch that was just like, there was just more to it for me at that time. And I just continued to go on with that, and went to UNL, went to the Newman Center when I could for Mass. And it just has always really stuck with me, for sure. And then Kristen's Catholic, so that obviously helped with everything, and we have that bond, and it's been good ever since.
Well, let's get into your path now, and let's get you to Scotus now. So how do you end up at Scotus?
So we left North Platte, moved to Lincoln, and we go to Lincoln for about 3 years. Did not think we would leave Lincoln. We thought that was going to be our home forever. We love Lincoln. And Kristen was looking to get out of TV. She had some opportunities in Lincoln, but we just weren't sure if it felt right. And then we had talked about kids and wanting to have kids, and being in Lincoln. Granted, we're not far away. Kristen's family's in Columbus, my family's in Fremont, but still, like, that in-town aspect. We didn't have that in Lincoln. And so at that time, the marketing coordinator job came open at the hospital here.
Yep.
And she's like, I'm going to apply. What do you think about moving to Columbus? And at that time, I was game for it, because I was looking kind of for a change too. I had left TV and went to Sid Dillon, and it was great. But it just kind of happened really quickly. where when this opportunity presented itself for Kristen, I was like, we just need, like, I kind of pushed my feelings away, and it was just like, I feel like we just need to do this, and I'll figure myself out, kind of thing. And it was a really great experience for her to get out of TV and to learn a new craft, because it is so different. You know, when we go to school for broadcasting and journalism, it's not marketing. Yeah, it's a lot different. But we knew we were kind of getting pigeonholed being in TV. So that's why when I left, I went to Cedille and I started learning the back end of websites. I started learning some of the marketing and the digital aspects and things like that. And then when she got to CCH, she obviously took that and really ran with it. So we moved to Columbus in November of 2017. And then I was driving to Sid Dillon in Fremont at the time because I just transferred dealerships because I loved Sid Dillon. I didn't really want to leave. I didn't really realize how much that drive would impact me. And after about 6 months, it just got to be too much. From Columbus to Fremont. At that time, there was lane, I know. It was 4-lane to Schuyler, and that was it. Yeah. And it was just like, this is awful. Yep. And I was like, car accident. You would hear about car accidents all the time. Yeah. And at that time, I was working in sales and marketing, so I was working some nights till 8:00, driving in the wintertime back to Columbus. Like, I'm like, this just isn't worth. Yeah. It's not worth that. And if we want to start a family, those things, it just kind of everything just kind of hinged on that. And then when I was actually kind of looking to maybe like get out of marketing entirely because I just felt like I just didn't really know what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I was 27 years old, and I just was like, what is my purpose here, and what do I want to do? And I found an opportunity in Lindsay, at Lindsay Manufacturing and Lindsay Corporation, and worked there as the plant coordinator. So I was along the admin team, kind of running data analysis, and I did a little bit of marketing with some events and whatnot, and met Pat Sokol there. Oh, okay. So that was super fun, and he's just been a great friend ever since then. And I did that for a while, and then Kristen got pregnant, and she had a lot of issues with her pregnancy with Nora, where we were hospitaling a lot in Omaha. And I started this job, about 6 months in, and this happens, and it's a pretty life-changing situation that we were dealing with her pregnancy. Is just really touch and go with the baby for a while, and it was just very hard to focus on anything but that. So when our daughter Nora is born, she's healthy, stays in the NICU for 38 days in Omaha. Again, I'm doing all this driving back and forth. Before, when Kristen went to the hospital for the first time, they're like, you can't go back to Columbus. You have to live in Fremont with Taylor's parents. Like, you cannot be that far away because if we need to see you. It was like that severe. Like, she had to be on bed rest at my parents' house. So that was like, okay, well then, like, I'm staying half the time in Fremont, half the time in Columbus. We're doing all these doctoring in Omaha. Like, it was just a whirlwind of just all these emotions, and like, again, trying to, 6 months in on this new job, trying to learn all this new stuff that I had never done before, and it was just a really unique experience. So we have Nora, we get her home in July, and then I just really kind of think about like this. It just wasn't it. I could just tell it just wasn't it. And then on a whim, I sent Jeff an email, and I said, hey, here's my resume. I would love to come talk to you about a potential opportunity down the road. Mm-hmm. Here's what I can do, and here's how I think I can help you. And he called me the next day. Just nothing was posted. You just kind of reached out on your own. Basically created the position. Yeah. He had it in his mind. Yeah. How did had you heard something about it, or was it just like, hey, I'm gonna? No, it was coincidence. Yeah, just happened. Yep. I just knew at that point. There was an opportunity with Columbus Public Schools, kind of similar, that I was interested in, and went through that process, and then it just kind of happened over here right around the same time, and then it just presented itself, and I met with Jeff, and I just knew. I knew 10 minutes in, like, this place is special. Well, and let's get into that, because you essentially create something that really changes the game. I mean, you've changed the game at Scotus, if you think about it. I don't think people really appreciate it. That's why I wanted to get you on, because I want people to understand all these things that, the streaming services, and now we're doing this podcast. But you've helped create a lot of things. So just, touch in on kind of how you brainstormed that and how you developed all these things.
Because you developed a lot of things.
Yeah. It was just a really unique experience to start from scratch, essentially. I knew Jeff gave me the permission to, hey, I want you to take this and run with it, and really make it as big as you can make it. So, took over all the social medias, created the YouTube channel, really, probably about 2 months in, made the call to Strive to say, hey, let's set a meeting. I want to do this. We want to get on board with this. And really just helped streamline a lot of different things here when it came to media, when it came to marketing, when it came to advertising, and just keeping things consistent. And then just, I feel like the communication piece for families, there was something missing there to be able to communicate to parents different things happening within the school district and making sure they're getting the information at a timely manner. All those things. So implementing like school messenger, things like that were, I feel like, really crucial to the success. And just, that community. It's just, putting bricks in a building kind of thing. Like you need this to get to this, to get to this. And that first year it was awesome. Like I feel like I came into work every day. Like it wasn't work. It was just so much fun to be in this environment and to be able to promote Catholic education for me was, honestly, it was a dream come true for me.
Yeah.
And to do it here with the history that I knew about this place, and to be the first one.
I mean, you essentially created it from the ground up.
Yeah. Like that was, I took a lot of pride in that, and I knew that I had to really knock it out of the park, and hopefully, people think that I did. Well,
and I think they have, because I mean, just the streaming alone. The streaming alone is a huge deal.
Yeah, and that was
a huge deal.
That was something I knew when I talked to Jeff, I was like, yeah, I can handle that. Like we need, I had worked for Husker Vision in college, and I knew live streaming was really starting to pick up. And then the pandemic happens. So then it was like, we definitely have to do this now. Yeah. Like there's no option. We have to do this now. You're kind of already
ahead of the game just a little bit.
Yeah.
You kind of already
we had planted the seed a little bit, and we had gotten everything essentially in place before it happened, and then use that summer to really to fine tune it. Like we didn't sign in August, we had signed in February, so I had time to kind of do some research and get it ready for August of 2020 for when we really started. And it was a really good experience to go through the lumps of live streaming, because it's not easy, especially the first time. I mean, it was me by myself, and it was just like, all right, I got to kind of figure this out. And Strive was super grateful with like setup and all that stuff, but when it came to like the live production, they've got 80 other schools they're dealing with too. It's not just me. So we went through some trials and tribulations with that, but it was an awesome thing to be able to do that and be able to be involved. I always would tell kids in video production, the class I teach here, like there's nothing to me better, like from a work environment, than like producing a live production. Like it's doing that for Husker Vision, like changed my life forever. Like how I watch sports, how I cheer for sports with stuff like that. And I just love to be able to come and, hey, it's going to be, it's Scotus versus Bergen. It's going to be a really good basketball game here tonight. And I get a like front row seat to it, but I also get to make sure that the quality for the people at home is good too. Yeah. I took a lot of pride in that.
Yeah. And I think then, the evolution from Strive into Huddle.
Yeah.
That's been a game changer too, because, we got the camera systems at the football field, got them in the gym. Yeah. I mean, so there's access for, and even like, like elderly fans that normally would try to venture out in the storm. Now it's kind of like, well, I can watch it at home now, which is good.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, right? Yeah, like I understand both that ways. And Merlin and I would talk about it all the time. But it's your brand, and at the end of the day, your brand is so important. Like obviously, you want to have people in the gym. We would still get people in the gym. Yeah, you can't eliminate live streaming once you have it. No, because that brand is so important, and it reaches so many people. You know how many people would reach out to me? Like that first year, I got so many emails from people I don't even know. Hey, I watched the Scotus versus Lakeview game in New York City.
Yeah. From all over the country.
Yeah.
All over the world, really.
Yeah, and it was like, hey, I got to watch, I haven't watched the Scotus volleyball game in 10 years, and I'm in Tampa, and I got to watch it. Like, that stuff was so cool for me to be like, that made me feel really good. And I would make sure to let everybody, Jeff, Merlin, Angie, like let people know in admin, like we're getting these notes, and it's showing in the numbers too, in the data for the view counts we would get. Yep. So it was a really cool experience to be able to give that back to the fans for sure.
And I think just from and let's talk about the branding thing, because I know that was a really big thing, in your last couple of years here was really try to get the rebranding, which I think has been a huge step, because now everything's kind of on the same page. But just touch on the branding aspect so people understand, like, when they see the Scotus logo, it's changed just a little bit, but a subtle difference.
It was, the logo itself, back when it was created, was drawn on pen and paper kind of thing. And it served its purpose for a while, but it was just one of those things where it was just time to update. It's not a bad thing if the end product is going to be better. And that's how I feel like the logo is now. It's better than what it once was. And it just needed the refresh. And also too, from like my standpoint, from a technical side point, I didn't have like original artwork for the old logo. So like using it in different materials was really hard because you're just kind of copying, cutting and pasting an image. Like it wasn't that true file type to get all nerdy on you right now. But
no, it's true.
That was important, and we needed that for T-shirts, for letterhead, all that stuff. It was just like we need to fix this. So we were able to get that done, have the Shamrock more prominent in the logo, have the cross be longer. When I first got here, like to me it looked like a plus sign, like it just didn't really fit. To be able to take that and have permission to make those changes made me feel really good, and I feel like it's been a change in the betterment for the long term of Scotus. And I would always make sure I would text my friends at 10-11 if they use the wrong logo, like right away. I'm like, hey, just so you know, I'm not upset, but here's our updated logo. Please use this moving forward. World Herald, NCN, all those people. So it's on their end to do it. Hopefully they do it. I know a lot of them have changed over to that. So, but from T-shirts and all the things, and like the little thing for me, like was Scotus Central Catholic versus Columbus Scotus. Some people didn't understand the ramifications of like why that's such a big deal, but it is a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal, and if you don't understand why, then I don't really know what to tell you, because it's the name. Yeah. It's Scotus Central Catholic. It's Aquinas Catholic. Yes. It's Cedar Catholic. Yeah. The town name. Yeah, exactly. It's not the town name.
Yes.
That was back when. We all have supercomputers in our pockets now. We don't need to know on a map, well, I don't know where Aquinas Catholic is because it doesn't have the town name in front of it. So
it's so interesting about that because, like, for state soccer this year, they put Scotus Central, and that was a big thing with the NSAA a couple years ago. Is NSAA, we're Scotus Central Catholic. Well, this year for state soccer, we show up for state soccer, the girls' tournament. We get the brochure, and we open up the brochure, and it says Scotus Central Catholic, 2 state tournament appearances.
Oh,
2 total. So like we had to like, hey, we're Scotus Central Catholic, but it's you guys have it at Columbus Scotus, and we're like, we've been here like 20 some times. And even the administrators down there were like, hey, they really goofed up here. They said you've only been here 2 times. So it's like getting that out there because even some of the broadcast people now still use Columbus Scotus.
Correct. And that's a language thing that'll just take some time.
Yeah.
But I really, like, in my last 3 years, I would really go to staff and I would, like, you need to say Scotus Central Catholic, like, in passing. If you're at Walmart, hey, what do you teach at? Well, at Scotus Central Catholic, I teach, 10th grade math, whatever that is. So it's just getting rid of that term Columbus and, like, taking it off T-shirts.
Yes.
We need to use our proper name. So that was a big thing with the rebrand that I was really proud of, that it's really moved forward in that direction. And Aquinas has followed, Cedar's followed. So it's a good thing.
I think it's a good thing. And that's kind of, I'm glad you're able to tell that here because then people listening can understand, hey, it's Scotus Central Catholic. That's where we all graduated from.
Yeah, that's what it says on your diploma. It doesn't say
from Columbus Scotus.
Correct, yeah. So it's just one of those things where a necessary change, and just, again, for all those listening, keep using Scotus Central Catholic. That's where you went to high school, right?
Yeah. Well, again, I think, we could touch on so many other things that you've done, but, like, I think the big things are the rebranding you touched on, the live streaming, because those are huge impacts. And I think the live streaming's been able to affect the school, obviously, in a positive way for all the other different things, whether it's, fundraising efforts or gala, just it's out there. People from all over the country know, and they can see and stay connected.
Well, it's all about just that self-promotion aspect of being able to promote the good things that you do. I've always felt like when I started here, it's like there's promotion and recruitment all go together.
Yes.
Right. We're promoting the good things we have. That's why we want kids to come to school here, because you're going to get a great education. You're going to get your faith life filled. You're going to be on excellent athletic teams, you're going to make good friends. You're going to be in smaller class sizes. Those are things to promote.
Yeah.
And that's what, why I wanted to be here, to promote those good things that at the end of the day, like the teachers make that, the students make that, the families make that, the coaches make that. They make that atmosphere for everybody. So in being able to, to keep people informed about the gala, to keep people informed, I would make 15 to 30 second little commercials about, hey, just remember the gala is this Saturday, April 13th in the Dowd Activity Center. You can buy your tickets online, like little things like that, just as those reminders. Yeah, when they're watching the football game, it's like, oh yeah, I should save the date for the gala, or I should save the date for the Booster Club Wild Game Feed, like the little things like that, where I always wanted to make sure everybody felt included,
Yeah, and I think you did a great job of that, because I think that's been a big change, obviously, from when I grew up here, and even when I moved back.
Sure.
Just it's been a lot of things that you helped build, but well. And then, unfortunately, we get the bad news that you leave. I remember when I got the news, I was like, "Oh man, no!" But at the same time, very happy for you, because I think things are obviously growing good. But so, kind of tell us how life in Fremont's going for you.
Yeah, it was agonizing to leave. The decision was so hard.
Yeah.
Because I loved this place. I loved what I did. I loved everybody I worked with. Being able to teach video production with the kids, and to just be on this team, it was really hard to leave. But I felt at that time I just needed some more growth. And this opportunity that I'm in now with Fremont Family YMCA has provided me that, just to grow in my career a little bit. And it put us also closer to my parents. My parents are in Fremont, and it put us more so in the middle of Kristen's family. She has family here, but then she has a brother in Bennington. And Fremont, really so similar to Columbus. Yeah. And Bergen being...
Good people at Bergen, too.
Yeah.
Bodie Bodie Hill, one of my best friends, is there involved.
Yep. I see Bodie all the time, and that was a huge selling point. If we didn't have that Catholic education side of it, it would have been even harder decision. But being able to be like, okay, I can grow in my career. My kids can go to a great Catholic education and be in that positive educational environment at Bergen. It was like, our daughter's going to go to kindergarten now this fall. If we're going to make the move, the time to go is kind of now. Yeah. Again, it was so hard to leave Scotus. It was tough. Yeah. And walking into Jeff's office was hard. It was really, really hard. And we talked and he understood, and we talked for a long time. Yeah. And he was just very appreciative.
And I think that's how I felt the exact same way. It's like, we hate to lose you, but at the same time, it's like, you got to do what you got to do. And obviously you've had a huge impact, continue to do, really, because I enjoy talking with you when we see you. And I know you've been back a couple times to see some games and stuff, but it's been good. It has been. And, I'll always be I'll always be a Shamrock. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm ingrained here for a long time, even though, Bergen's our number one now. Yep. But Scotus will always have that place for us, for my kids. My kids still talk about, can we go to the Scotus gym? You know what I mean? Because they're 6 and 3, so they're still little. They, kind of think that we could just go there anytime. Because they had so many good memories here too, and Kristen did too. Just being able to meet people and. She was good at her job at the hospital. I mean, we worked with her a couple of different things, and just it was hard for her to leave that too, and it was really, once she left the hospital, we kind of had the discussion of like, well, with her working remotely, we can kind of go anywhere if we wanted to, and then the right opportunity presented itself. We're in Fremont, and it's been great. We're in a really great neighborhood. We've met some really great people, and. Again, it's been a really positive change for our family. And so I know your kids are in the Catholic school system there, right? Yeah. At Fremont. Just kind of touch on that, the importance of that Catholic education that you've kind of mentioned it a couple times. Just kind of touch on that a little bit. Yeah. It's always been really important to me as somebody who went to public school K through 12. I had friends who went to West Point Central Catholic. I had friends who went to Bergen, and I could just see it, if that makes any sense. Like, a lot of my friends were, involved in their faith, just the maturity level, academics. It was further along than what I would have liked to have been at, and some of that's on me. I think a lot of it's your environment, right? A lot of it is the environment, and I just knew if I had the ability to put my kids in that environment, I wanted to be able to do that, and Bergen's providing us with that.
And my kids will be in Catholic school for sure. I mean, to me, it's the option. So we're lucky to have it.
And I think, Bergen's a great system. A lot of tradition there too. I mean, very, very similar to Scotus, obviously, just maybe a little bit smaller, but at the same time, very structured, very similar probably.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, a lot of it's the same. They only have the one elementary, which is obviously changed from here having 3. I tell people all the time that Columbus has 3 elementary schools, and
it's unique.
It's very unique for a town this size.
Yeah.
But it's been good. I mean, I think Nora will have around 35 to 40 in her kindergarten class, which to me is perfect.
Wow, that's great.
So I'm really excited for her to start that journey. I'll probably bawl like a baby first day of kindergarten, but it's good. It's been a really good transition for all of us. Kristen too, being able to still work remotely, but grow in her career and grow in her company that she has, and being able to do it from home and being able to pick up the kids and do all those things. That's, those are the underrated aspects of that.
Sure. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up here, I guess, and let me ask you two other questions.
Yeah.
Here, I guess what makes you proud? I mean, you've had such an impact on Scotus, and I think hopefully people appreciate, just in our brief discussion today, kind of like all the things that currently go on at Scotus, you had a lot to do with. So I personally thank you for that. But I guess what makes you proud to be a part of that, Scotus tradition?
Well, I appreciate that. I like to just think that I was just a small piece in just a small amount of time. But being able to have this and having you continue to do it means a lot to me, because Jeff wanted me to start this podcast, and I always wanted to, but I always wanted to make sure that if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right, and it's not going to be, we're going to do it for 4 episodes and it's going to be over. So there was a lot of long-term planning with it, and then getting it launched last summer, and then sadly having to, leaving 3 months, that killed me. That was so hard, but I knew handing it to you would be good. So being able to have like opportunities like this for alumni to listen to these stories, but also kids to have the experience of like, we recorded some podcast stuff with kids, and having kids being able to use video cameras to tell stories, like teaching video production. Emma and Libby were both in my class, and they were tremendous, and it was being able to teach kids those life skills, even if they're not going to become a journalist, even if they're not going to become a broadcaster. It's just teaching kids how to meet a deadline.
And I think your discussion with Angie touched on that a lot.
Yeah.
So like listeners, if you go back to Angie Rusher, episode 2, and listen to that one, because Taylor and Angie touch on the impact of the journalism program and everything else, the success there, which you had a lot to do with as well.
Yeah, and Angie, arguably my best friend on staff here. She was so welcoming to me right when we came on. She taught me a lot about Scotus, the ins, the outs, how things work here, just different things like that. And she was just always willing if I had questions or somebody to talk to. And we just really took it off with journalism, and we had really good run there for, we won 3 straight state championships in Class B and state runner-up the next year, and it was awesome, and it was all just because of the kids. And being able, I always said it's so cool to be able to create something out of nothing. It's even just like this. You send me the questions, and we write it out, and then it's going to become into an audio format forever. Like that's really cool to have this story forever. But I think just being able to give back to alumni and friends and parents through the live streaming, through keeping them informed on social media, keeping them informed in press releases, making sure like the website's current and stuff like that, like just doing those things that make it easier for parents, because there's a lot that parents have to deal with. And I always wanted to make it easy for everybody. And at the end of the day, like I told everybody, I just hope that I was easy to work with. Like that's kind of my goal. I'm pretty easygoing, and I just want to do my best and make sure that everybody I'm working with is having a good experience.
Well, I think you accomplished that goal, Taylor.
Well, good. I appreciate that.
Well, final question then, and this is kind of the question we always end with. Describe Scotus Central Catholic in one word.
I would have to say it's a community. Cliche, right? But it is. It was so welcoming for me. We had lived here for almost like 9 months before I started here, and we didn't really have a community. Like we had really debated, like, I can't believe we moved here. Why did we leave Lincoln for this? Like, we didn't have any friends. It just didn't hit. And then I start here, and we just got so involved. And I think and everyone was so welcoming to me in the workplace, and receptive of my ideas, and being able to have that community was just so crucial for my growth and for my family, to kind of have that place of home. Because if we wouldn't have had it, we probably would have left sooner. This place just really means a lot to me, and still always will. Like, this community is so great. And whether it's alumni, whether it's friends, it's students, it's teachers, like, everybody who's involved here matters. Everyone who's walked through these halls, they've done it the right way. So,
well, again, I think it was awesome to have you come in today, and I think people get it, definitely kind of understand who the guy is that helped create a lot of this stuff. So.
A lot of people will probably listen to this and be like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people who don't live here, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But being here for 5 years was so impactful for me. I almost feel like I am an alum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it just meant so much to me, and I put so much heart and blood, sweat, and tears into this place to make it, to continue the tradition of excellence in everything, and to just grow, right? To change different things. So it's been really good. Always proud to be a Shamrock.
Well, you've changed it forever, so appreciate that very much.
Of course.
All right. Well, Taylor, again, thanks for coming in. It was a great opportunity to hear your story and the impact that you've had on Scotus, and just thanks for driving in from Fremont to come do this episode.
Of course, yeah. We'll have to. We'll make it another round sometime. We'll do a round 2 sometime. But again, always appreciate it, and go Rocks.
Yeah. Well, if you're interested in hearing more Shamrock Green Room episodes, subscribe to us and rate us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Make sure to follow us on our social media channels, Scotus Central Catholic on Facebook, X, and YouTube, and Columbus Catholic Schools on Instagram. If you have some ideas for some guests on the podcast, please email me at coachbrez@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us in the Shamrock Green Room.